starts now.
It's been a nervous middle of the night on the coast of Alaska, worried about a tsunami. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. This is the sound that woke some people up after a powerful earthquake at sea south of the state. There's no quake damage reported, and that tsunami warning has been canceled. Fox's Tanya J. Powers has the latest live.
Well, Dave, that 7.9 quake that jolted people in Alaska around 1 a.m. spurred that tsunami warning. It has now been downgraded to an advisory. Officials say those in Kodiak Island should remain in place, though on higher ground. The quake happened about 175 miles off the Alaskan coast, and that advisory included that area as well as Canada's British Columbia. The West Coast no longer under a watch, by the way.
Tanya, in Japan, a volcano erupted while people were skiing down the mountain. Some got caught up in an avalanche. One person was killed, more than a dozen others are injured. It's back to work today for federal employees. The government is now funded through February 8th, and now the focus is on immigration.
I believe that there is a consensus to solve the DACA problem, and we'll have an opportunity to do so.
Independent Senator Angus King joins Democrats wanting protections for some immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as kids. President Trump insists that should include funding for his border wall. Republicans in Congress are upset something's missing at the FBI. 5 months of text messages exchanged by two FBI officials who were open about disliking then-candidate Trump, wanting Hillary Clinton to win.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions vows the Justice Department will leave no stone unturned in searching for them. Lawmakers want to know if any criminal activity has taken place.
Fox's Kelly Wright, a song sung blue from Neil Diamond, retiring from touring after he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, canceling the rest of his 50th anniversary tour. He still plans to write and record. Neil Diamond will be 77 tomorrow. Sunday, he'll get a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Grammys. Fox News. Fair and balanced.
Are you putting your retirement savings in a 401k, IRA, or investment account? Then I have one word of advice. Stop. Experts warn of a stock market crash any day now, and you could lose 50% or more of your hard-earned savings again. But you don't have to lose a penny. There's a better, safer way to save for retirement, and you can learn about it in a free report. This method continues to grow your money even when the market tumbles. To get this free report, go to bankonyourself.com. That's bankonyourself.com. Bankonyourself.com.
For many businesses, hiring is tough. You want access to highly qualified candidates fast. And you don't want to sign a long-term contract or pay upfront fees. That's why you need Indeed.com, delivering 6 times more hires than any other job site, according to independent research. Indeed is offering new users a $50 credit to give their first job post premium visibility as a sponsored job. Redeem this offer at Indeed.com/credit. That's Indeed.com/credit. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
Military men and women are getting paid again, and federal workers back on the job after Congress reaches a deal on a temporary government funding bill. In the end, it was the same deal Democrats were offered before the shutdown, and assurance from Republicans to take up immigration issues in the weeks ahead. A comprehensive financial and operational audit of New Jersey Transit has been ordered by Governor Murphy. Commuter Jeremy Barretto says with all of the problems the agency is facing, he's worried this audit is going to take longer than it should.
The two most important things that they need to look into is the dependability of the trains and then the actual condition of trains.
Governor Murphy has yet to signal what he's going to do with his first state budget, but the prospects for having enough money to fund his progressive agenda are dim. Now, Moody's on Wall Street warning again. The state economy is not growing nearly fast enough to pay for lavish health and retirement benefits for public workers. Democrats, some have signaled they're open to more reforms, but Murphy has been non-committal. I'm Eric Scott, and this is the Town Square News Network.
Hey, it's meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Did you have your house for sale last year and it didn't sell? Robert Dukansky of RE/MAX First Advantage helps people like you all the time. Jen and her family had their Wayne home listed with another agency for 6 months and could not get it sold. They thought it was because of their home's outdated condition, but Rob gave them marketing tips for selling quickly and for the most money. With 14 showings in 8 days, it sold for $15,000 over asking, and this was with making no changes or updates to the home itself. Rob guarantees to sell your home at a price and a deadline you agree to, or he'll buy it. And there's no risk to you because he'll let you out of the contract anytime. While other agents slow down their marketing during winter, Rob ramps his up to sell your home regardless of the time of year. So call the only agent I would call if I needed to sell my home, Rob Dukansky. Call today, 855-350-1015. That's 855-350-1015, or online at robsellsnj.com. WTMJ.com and start packing. It's turning into a pretty wet and stormy day across the Garden State. Periods of rain, occasional downpours, and yes, rumbles of thunder will start to clear out by late this afternoon after about 3 o'clock. It'll be breezy and warm today with highs near 60 degrees. Skies will continue to clear tonight as cooler, drier air returns. Lows fall to the mid-30s and a much cooler day tomorrow. Highs limited to the lower 40s with partly sunny skies and a continuing stiff breeze. Thursday, the chilliest day of the week, highs only in the 30s despite plenty of sunshine. I'm meteorologist Dan Zero.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Malamut is here. This program every Tuesday morning for 27 years. Sponsored by, presented by Chuck Malamut. Managing Director, he leads his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. Chuck's bragging about his football prowess. The following program, presented by Chuck, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck Malamut and do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast and are subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. Chuck, how about them Eagles?
Good morning, Harry.
Mark Kreskin knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, I was traveling, and sometimes your best laid plans unfortunately don't work out, and this thing called a pothole kind of got in the way of my travels. So
you hit a pothole?
Oh, yeah, it was.
Did it demolish like the rim and the wheel?
It was.
'Cause my daughter had that happen.
Yeah, I guess to your listeners. Not that I'm going to suggest any particular app, but if you don't have an app called Waze, you really need to put it on your phone, because
WAYS?
WAZ it is.
Okay.
and I didn't realize this until after the fact, but this will actually identify for you, cars that are pulled over, but more importantly, like if there's a pothole, a mile up, it's going to tell you that.
So people actually put into it, and then that
and unfortunately,
aggregates.
I did not know that, and but having said all that, had to work through all that, but just had an opportunity to listen, watch most of the first game, got on the road, and then obviously listened to the second game, saw all the highlights, and it was
extraordinary.
Quite a franchise,
what they did in an NFC championship game to basically every aspect, from the quarterback to the offensive line to the defense to the special teams. I mean, everything. The kicking game, the field goal right before halftime. I mean, it was the defense I've left out. I mean, they left, let one drive. The opening drive was the highlight reel for the Minnesota Vikings. And to do what they did, 38 spot on the number one defense in the NFL, I think it's one of the greatest games and most complete games ever played by a football team of either league, and the greatest game in Philadelphia Eagles history. I don't know what it means for, next Sunday, not this Sunday, next Sunday, but you cannot do any better what they did.
I think the lesson to be learned in watching, and I was in the New England area, and it's interesting, some of the football fans that we were with and meeting with, they have what they call Patriots fatigue, New England fatigue.
Wow.
They're
sick of winning?
They're at the point where they're saying, they're exhausted by the whole process because every year you get this pretty much same outcome.
They just want it to be the Super Bowl and win and be over. They don't want to go through the...
No. They like to see another team win,
They want their own team to lose?
Yes, I heard this from when I heard it from.
All right, let's give them their wish.
When I heard it from the first person, okay, I kind of didn't think about it, and then when I heard it from someone else, and they don't even know that other person, the first person, I said, wow, this could be something rather interesting.
That's
that's
human nature, because someday that's not going to be the case, and the very same people that were sick of winning will be very, very feeling absent of winning.
Yes.
It'll just flip it.
And Harry, I understand how you feel, coming off of the championship year that you had last year with
Thank you.
during the season and also the postseason. And I guess what I need to share with your listeners is that unfortunately you're not having the same type of year that you had last year, but that's okay because we got a little of the Harry fatigue, the Hurley fatigue.
It was a lot of pressure, being the first person in history of more than 12 years to win both the regular season and the postseason titles. So it could be that.
But we turn the page and we move on, and unfortunately, Harry,
I think it's nice the way you celebrate that a lot more than you celebrated my greatness. You're celebrating this a lot more, but I'm used to taking the slings and arrows, so I can take them from you as well.
And do you want to share with your listeners, your wide range of listeners, who is currently at first position in the postseason pool?
You know what? After I was only 1-3 this past weekend, I didn't look, but based on that,
might want to look on the break.
Based on that self-absorbed answer, I know who it is. One, Chuck Malamut.
It is. Thank you.
I know.
And there's only 2 decisions left, so it's pretty good. A pretty good shot at locking up that lead there.
Well, I know what it feels like to have achieved what you're hoping to achieve, and
so
if
it does happen, we'll have a big celebration. You're bringing a big cake for me in 2 weeks, and
well, I'll be nicer about you winning than you have been about my losing.
I actually, I think I've been pretty gracious about it. So
you brought it up. What are you talking about?
Well, you would have done the same, Harry.
Not like that.
But you always do.
No, not like that. Come on, not like that. Come on, that was. But listen, I can take it. So it just rolls right off my back. I am the defending champion still, and we'll see how it all turns out. But I wish, unlike what you just did here, I want to wish you great success.
Well, thank you.
I really am pulling for you, and I know you can do it. Market update.
So, it's pretty remarkable that the week that we had again last week, it's a continuation of where we were in 2017, and that that risk on phenomena continues. Equities were up a little bit less than 1%, that being the S&P. Treasuries, and this is the concern that we have, is the fact that the yields are now moving higher, and the fact that the yield curve is becoming more flattened as we know it, and what happens if the yield curve becomes inverted. And we've seen some economists actually calling out, and I hate to use that word, but it begins with the capital R, that potential recession, is not too far out, because the fact of the matter is that it's going to be such a tough number to overcome Q3 and Q4. I think we're good, this quarter, or, obviously fourth quarter reporting now, first quarter, second quarter, but, in all, we have to be very, very careful with where we are going.
Part of
with
it is
respect to the
part of it
economy.
is going up against such great numbers of the past.
And the other thing is, you have a new Fed.
Yeah.
And you're not sure what direction they're going to take, and unfortunately,
new Fed with an appetite to raise rates.
And I think as Kirk, being a historian, can probably quantify this, is the fact that so many times, that being the Fed, has derailed the market by just making some really, really poor decisions.
Alan Greenspan.
So as a result of that, I think we all have to be somewhat concerned about it. But what I found very interesting, and we don't like to talk about an individual day, but as the market opened yesterday, where the government shut down partially,
thank you for getting that right.
A partial shutdown,
because nobody else will say that except
the markets were pretty much unfazed by the whole activity. I mean, it was off ever so slightly. I think maybe the Dow was off 25, 30.
I think they knew that a deal was coming in hours, and
then at noontime or shortly thereafter, when they started voting, and then the market ended up with a nice day. Today. Again, you don't like to talk about individual days, but you're Travelers, Verizon. There's a couple companies that had reported, before the market opened. I mean, we are in the throes of earnings, and as earnings go, so I think so will the market, and the fact that,
with the exception of that big write down that caught a lot of people by surprise, I think they actually I'm just going to say it as a layperson. I think they were dishonest about it. Other than that, earnings have been very good.
What company?
I think I'm talking about GE.
Okay, well, that's sort of a somewhat of a different scenario. And we don't like to talk about a particular company, but that is a company that is, if you look back at historically how they have performed, they've just been off the mark for an extended period of time, and now, unfortunately, the shareholders, are paying for that.
Well, I like your answer, but I would say this as a layperson. I don't think that many people saw a $3 billion write-down coming.
It didn't surprise us. I mean, it's evident in what happened with the stock price even before. I mean, you think about, it was the worst performing stock in the Dow. Probably wouldn't be all surprised, Harry, Kirk, if maybe 3-4 years if they reset the Dow, maybe they take that company out. I mean,
shame. What a blue chipper it was. Who's the guy, Jack? Who was the former
Jack Welch?
I mean,
yeah, he was phenomenal.
Exactly. I don't even have to add to that. Phenomenal. That was then. This is now for sure. And I know you don't celebrate any one day or anything, but yesterday was yet another record for the Dow, another record for the NASDAQ, and this has just been an extraordinary run.
I think what is happening here is that outside of some of the blue states, and we happen to be one with respect to tax reform, and you're seeing some things happen. I know you guys talk about California and the give back of the $500, but
that's crazy.
$500. But if you look at what is happening, across corporate America with all the bonuses, the pay raise increases, the increases in the 401k matches, that the tax reform is really starting to show its potential strength as we get into 2018.
Without a doubt. Let's get our first break in. Much more with Chuck Malamut. If he's not finished the market update, that continues. We're also going to talk about, and Chuck will, can the bull market continue? Longest bull market in the history of America, inflation and the markets, the weekly U.S. jobless claims, GDP growth, fewer college graduates, or rather college students, which obviously would equate to fewer college graduates. We'll talk about that as well. I think that's going to be interesting to hear what Chuck has to say about that, because the college degree became almost essential if you wanted to make it to a certain level, and then you needed the graduate degree, and even after that. So it really is this possibility of things pulling back to where that's not going to be as essential as one thought. And, of course, the massive six-figure debt that both Parent Plus loans and student loans have been accumulating. Chuck Malamut continues for all of your financial planning needs, 383-2010. That's 609-383-2010. A reminder, after Chuck's program at 8:50 this morning, we're going to visit for the first time with Cindy Fersh, I should say on air, first time we visited with Cindy Fersh, owner and executive editor of Shore Local News Magazine. That's the local news magazine that I write for on the 14th and the 28th of every month for both Mr. and Mrs. Fersh. Shore Local Magazine is published on the 14th and 28th of every month, available at more than 300 locations in Atlantic County and northern Cape May counties, available on demand at shorelocalnews.com. Cindy coming up after Chuck.
The results are in. A survey of Inc. 5000 companies shows the top barriers to growth.
It's taking finance too long to close the books.
So slow to launch new products.
We need to hire good people and keep them.
Too many disconnected systems. I can't see what's happening in my business.
Sounds like they've outgrown their business and financial management systems. QuickBooks and spreadsheets worked fine at the start, but now it takes twice the effort to get things done, and you can't get accurate answers. You should know the #1 system for growing companies, NetSuite from Oracle. NetSuite is the one system that tracks and manages revenue, cash flow, HR, inventory, projects, even e-commerce for every industry. Now you can run your business from a dashboard on your phone. That's why thousands of companies use NetSuite. It's the only system you need to run your business. Go to netsuite.com/radio to get your free guide called Crushing the 5 Barriers to Growth. That's netsuite.com/radio.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline at 800-283-5948. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-283-5948 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-283-5948 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-283-5948.
Hey, wake up with Harry Hurley and drive home with me, Sean Hannity, 3 to 6. It's all happening here on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Thank you very much. 21 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut, time is yours.
So Harry, I think we talked about the market, obviously the market update and what our concerns are, but I mean the fact of the matter is that are we in the bottom of the seventh of a 9-inning game, or are we in fact in the bottom of the seventh of a game that's going to go to multiple extra innings? And I think that's something that we need to think about. You think about investor sentiment, where we've been, like what's happened over the last 18 months. If you remember, in the middle of 2016, there was a lot of fear about inflation or deflation. Everybody was just so concerned about it, and all the negative news that was out there. And so what has happened, optimism obviously towards economic growth, earnings growth, stock market prospects, have all become, the main investment themes as we get through 17 and now into 2018. And, the most recent example of all this is all the positive reaction we just kind of talked about before we got to the break about what's happened with the tax bill. Investors and analysts are now increasing expectations of higher earnings. And valuations, while some say they're stretched, others are saying, well, maybe they're not as stretched as we've seen, or we're thinking about. So, I think we need to take a look here. As we talked about, earnings expectations are very, very high at this point in time. We think they're going to probably be met, but as the higher expectations increase, it's going to be harder to get to beat those results. Q3, Q4. I think the one thing that a lot of investors really don't pay attention to is what's happening on the other side. I think one of the biggest fears is what's going to happen, with the bond market. If you look, short-term yields, have been rising quickly. There's been discussion that maybe there's multiple rate hikes this year, 2, maybe 3. Longer-term yields are now starting to follow. It's been a long time since that's happened. So as Treasury yields get to that 3% level, that being on the 10-year, we really should be concerned because that could have a negative impact, ultimately on stock prices. So,
Chuck, you touched on the tax cuts and tax reform. Do you believe the analysts even fully have an understanding of exactly, because we don't know everything about it, how that's going to impact? Because that could be something that could keep things going for an extended period of time that nobody would really forecast without the knowledge of how that's going to impact favorably or otherwise.
I think the cake is not fully baked at this point in time, and I think only time will tell. And I think I don't know if you caught it, Kirk, on the way out as we were talking about potential recession. Said
he says he's going to stop it.
He thought that those tax cuts could potentially avoid, eliminate, reduce the potential.
Well, look at what we've seen so far, and it hasn't even really. Nobody has gotten their first paycheck with a higher net amount in their paycheck. That's going to start in February, just a few weeks from now. You have literally so many companies. It's hundreds. You can't. In the beginning, it was like you would name like 3, 4, 5, or 7 companies. Now it's hundreds of companies that have given $1,000, $2,000 bonuses and more, that have increased rates of pay, that are otherwise incentivizing, as you mentioned, matching, more in terms of the 401k and other very favorable things for employees. None of this would be happening without this.
No, and you said something very interesting, and I took you got two words confused, and I thought it was pretty interesting. First, you said countries,
yeah,
and then you said companies. But when you think about countries, the fact of the matter is, what we don't really pay attention to here domestically is what's happening outside the U.S. I mean, there's a lot of good economic events that are happening overseas. Particularly if you look at Europe, and you look at the Far East as an example.
Is the world doing better than we are?
Yes, the world is doing better than we are. Now, what we have to think about, one of the concerns that we have that should be right on everyone's radar is, what is the potential of rising inflation? Rising inflation could cause problems, especially if the pace of economic growth improvements somehow gets interrupted. But market fundamentals remain sound for the most part. Again, this is a process where you need to be selective, because not every industry, not every sector, not every company moves in tandem. So you need to certainly keep your eye on the ball and understand what you're buying and why you're buying it. But I think one of the things that we were going to chat about, I don't know if it's next on the agenda or not, Harry, is that you talk about wage growth. Or the fact of the matter is that last week, weekly U.S. jobless claims number came in at 220,000 for the week ending January 6th. It's the lowest reading we've had since 1973, where the U.S. population was a lot smaller than we are today. So kind of, you do that calculation, numerator, denominator. So last week it was reported U.S. unemployment rate held steady at that 4.1%. But we're basically at full employment.
Correct.
I mean, if you are qualified and you're looking to get employed in the majority of this country, you should be able, to gain employment.
The model was set up that 96% employment was full. 94%.
So we're there.
We're beyond there. 94% was considered full employment. The belief was, when this was set up, that 6% unemployment, you could not do better than that, and that would couple those either that didn't want to work or were physically or mentally unable to work, were basically 2% better than they ever thought was possible. It's pretty extraordinary.
It is, and I think that as good as it is, it's something that we have to be concerned about, because if we are at full employment, then the pendulum has definitely swung in a different direction, where the employer could virtually call the shots, and now the employee has a little bit of strength when it comes to wages and potentially wage increases.
Yeah, but I personally like that. I didn't like it when you were lucky to have a job and people weren't being fairly treated or given increases. And if you don't like it, leave. And when somebody left, they didn't fill it, and then the other people are working twice as hard and lucky to have a job and no increase. I didn't like that environment.
No, and
it was unfair.
So
to
now
the
it seems to be working in the other direction. But when you talked about about tax reform, what are all these companies out there doing? We talked about potential wage increases, bonuses, but what we haven't really talked about is there's a few other things that are happening. That with these tax cuts, it gives the companies a more cash to utilize. So they are increasing capital expenditures. They're paying down debt, which is obviously a good thing. They're increasing their dividends, and that obviously helps shareholders. And they're raising wages. So they're doing a multiple number of things that are going to benefit the U.S. economy.
Couldn't have been said better than the official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program, Chuck Malamut, for all of your financial planning needs. Turn to Chuck. Tell him that I sent you. You can reach Chuck Malamut and the Malamut Group by dialing 609 609-383-2010. That's 609-383-2010. One more segment with Chuck straight ahead. Cindy Fersh is going to join us. We're going to be talking. I'm obviously stating who she is in terms of being owner and executive editor of Shore Local News Magazine. What we're going to be talking about today, though, is a wonderful not-for-profit organization, The Heart of Surfing. That's coming up at 20 minutes from now, from 10 of until the top of the hour with Cindy Fersh. Chuck Malamut on GDP growth, which has been exceptional, and we'll see what the latest forecasts are there, and a statistic that almost looks like an anathema or something, because hearing fewer college students when that's opposite of what's been going on. We'll talk to Chuck about why that seems to be the case.
Where you get your weather information matters, and WPG Talk Radio 104.1 brings you the most powerful name in weather forecasting, AccuWeather. South Jersey's weather can change in an instant, and WPG Talk Radio 104.1 and AccuWeather are here to keep you ahead of anything that Mother Nature throws our way this winter. AccuWeather, only on WPG Talk Radio 104.1, South Jersey's talk station.
At Dondero Diamonds and Fine Jewelry, they strive to exceed their customers' wildest expectations every day. That includes their vast inventory of over 5,000 jewelry items, offering the finest jewelry at the most affordable prices. They have the widest selection of diamonds, engagement rings, and wedding bands in South Jersey, with experts who will help you find the perfect ring for that perfect someone. If it's a distinctive timepiece you're looking for, Dondero's has a huge selection of watches in both men's and women's styles from top designers such as Movado, Seiko, and Citizen. And if you wish, Dondero's has craftsmen who will design and create custom jewelry. But it's their attention to customer service that has become the hallmark of their business for 3 generations. They provide every customer with a predictable, reliable, and extraordinary experience every time they visit their store. That's their promise. Dondero Diamonds and Fine Jewelry, 2439 North Delsea Drive in Vineland. Visit DonderoJewelry.com. Dondero Diamonds and Fine Jewelry, beyond the expected.
Hi, it's Mark Levin. Join me at 6 this evening. Now back to the Mayor of the Morning, Harry Hurley, on WPG Talk Radio 104.1, South Jersey's talk station.
We continue with the official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program. It's year 27 of Your Financial Matters with Chuck Malamut, the managing director. He leads his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. Chuck Malamut is, I want to say, perennial, but I don't want to say something that, could be technically not true, but perennial recipient of the annual Barron's, that's the Dow Jones Industrial Business and Financial Weekly publication, Power List of America's top financial advisors. And Chuck, I say this, there's no tongue-in-cheek, there's no ribbing of my brother or anything like that on this occasion. Very proud of you for consistently earning that. It's tough to get.
Thank you, Harry. I do. As you can see, I'm kind of grinning ear to ear, somewhat embarrassed by
having to compliment you?
By the accolades.
No, not at all. I'm proud to say it. Very proud
to say it. But I do appreciate it. Look, it's we're doing the same thing that we did many, many years ago, and obviously times do change. But I think in any business, if you do the right thing, for your clients, it'll come back to you. And I don't care what you're doing and who you're doing it with and to. But I don't think you need 6 years of education to figure that out. But thank you very much.
And that's why we talk about with you and your team the asset management coupled with the all important asset allocation. And that
it's interesting you bring that up because Mike and I spend a lot of time planning with our clients. Nancy and Kristen obviously are very, very important within the process because without them we would get nothing done. But I think if you're going to drive, as we talk, we've talked about the Waze, the app earlier today.
Yes.
So if you don't have,
I want to put that on my phone. How'd you spell that?
WAZ.
WAZ.
So if you don't have that, if you don't have an app on your phone or you don't have a GPS in your car, chances are, and you're trying to go to a remote location for the first time, you'll probably never get there. Well, Harry, put it in. The same thing kind of works with us. Without a plan, it really doesn't matter what you own. and why you own it and how long you've owned it for.
There's an E at the end of it.
That's right, W-A-Z.
Yeah.
W-A-Z-E. So what happens is, without a plan, you don't know where you're going. And we oftentimes refer to the plan.
Is that the one I want, Chuck?
That is. And
Okay.
clients have clients oftentimes get a little sidetracked because of what's happening with all the news flow. So I think that, whatever you do in our world, and I think what we have prided ourselves on, not asset allocation, but, the right selections. But, Harry, I think what's really important is to understand the plan. Like, what do you want to accomplish over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years of your life? How much risk are you willing or not willing to accept to get there? What sort of legacy do you want to create? Do you, in fact, want to create a legacy, or are you more interested in spending down your principal? So I think that...
So you basically find out what the person's goal is.
Well, you have to do that. And put the shoe on the other foot. Let's say, for instance, you go to your doctor, and your doctor, doesn't examine you, and you say to the doctor, "Listen, I need a prescription for some sort of medication," and is the doctor going to pull out the script pad and start writing? Chances are, I'm going to say 99.9% of the doctors will not do that.
No.
You might get one outlier out there, but I mean the same thing holds true with us. Without doing that full examination, you really don't understand the process and what are you trying to accomplish. I mean, if you are at 80% of your goal, why do you need to take significant risk, to get to the other 15%, 20%?
It's all good stuff, Chuck. I know there's two main points that we want to cover.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit.
We have
yeah.
10 minutes. We can go a little
Okay.
past 45 because I have a quick 2-minute break. Then we'll be ready at 10 up for Cindy's appearance this morning, Cindy Fersch. GDP growth.
Yeah, so Harry, as I saw this, I knew that you and Kirk would, fall out of your seats when I'm ready to make this statement. But Kirk, I hope you're to your destination or driving safely. But so we're going to report 2017 GDP growth in a couple days, and it looks like we're going to have an increase of at least 3% for 2017, and that's going to end a record streak. Not a great record streak of 11 consecutive years of sub 3% growth, and those were the years 2006 through 2016.
That didn't even happen during the Great Depression, Chuck.
Now, here's what did happen: the longest streak in history of sub 3% growth is 4 years, actually from 1930 to 1933. So that was right around the Great Depression. So you had the Great Depression, the Great Recession, and so now we're going to be 3 plus, for 17. And you've heard numbers being thrown out there, 4, 5, 6. I mean, I think north of 3 is an accomplishment.
I do too,
for sure. So, and anyway, I wanted to let you,
because remember, the new normal, which was a scam, was just intellectually dishonest and reporting to the American people that we couldn't grow at 3 and 4 and beyond anymore, that somehow something had fundamentally changed and that it could never happen again. And I knew that wasn't true.
Yeah, so that number is going to actually be reported on Friday.
Good.
So it'll be, I think we all kind of understand what the results are going to be before.
So is it already understood it will be north of 3%?
It'll be north of 3. I mean, that's what all the consensus is at this point in time. There's really no, I'm guessing that's going to be the result.
Very interesting. I love it. And what are the forecasts? I know they're all over the place, but is there any possible consensus in terms of GDP 2018?
I think it's a little early, but we know I have heard 3.5 to 5.5. I think 5.5 is going to be obviously a stretch. I think 4. We get over 3, we're good. Get over 4, it's great.
So I'd like to see it more incremental. If you go from below 3 to beyond 3, and the next year to beyond 4. That's
If
nice.
we can step that way, I think that would be good for the Fed as well, because you don't need the Fed to get spooked here, because if they do, the end result.
Spooked meaning if it get too hot, they'll do something to cool it down.
Exactly, and then ultimately, what you throw the cold water out there. And what has historically happened, government agencies have had a tendency to, sort of wreck, a lot of good things that are happening in the markets.
Chuck, well stated. I love to tell stories, as you know, and your last topic is about fewer college students. And I didn't need to read too much into that to just hearken back at, it wasn't my father's generation. He was World War II. If you wanted to go to college, you could go to college. It was actually affordable. You could actually not need any government assistance or student loans. You could work a job. You could go to school. You could get a degree. Or if you decided that college wasn't for you, there were great trade schools, and you could become, a master plumber, wonderful finish carpenter, or any number of different vocations that wouldn't require college. Then all of a sudden, the competition for jobs became so tremendous, Chuck, that in order to have a chance, you needed the degree. Then it got even more competitive. And then they started looking at a BA or a BS was not enough. You'd have to have the next level and the next level. And now, if I read your question in just in 3 words correctly, I think we're going back to the future where there's fewer college students again.
So here's what's happening. It's been a trend that has been developed over the last several years. In the fall of 2017, there were 18.8 million college students. Now, that includes undergrads and grad students. Actually, Harry, it was the 6th consecutive year, 2012 through 17, that the total number of students has declined on a year-over-year basis. Now, think about what you just said a minute ago. College loans. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this,
devastating.
I don't know how we've talked about it on at least 6 occasions.
Yeah, because I think it's big trouble coming.
So right now, the student loan debt of college students has increased by nearly $1 trillion over the last 12 years. $1 trillion, Harry. So outstanding student loan debt was $380 billion in 2005, climbing by $980 billion or to $1.36 trillion 12 years later. Harry, that's an increase of 11% per year.
That's terrible.
So how...
That should be considered price gouging.
Well, so as you know, when you sent your children to school, and my children, are in grad school, junior college, soon to go to grad school, you don't have a choice. Yeah. I mean, the tuition bill, and I'm not saying anything. Your tuition bill comes, and it's on average anywhere from 3 to 5% higher year 2 than year 1, and then as you go through that whole cycle, and because the money is so readily available from the federal government, the institutions take advantage of that.
They can charge anything.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, when that student, the student or the family is saddled with an exorbitant amount of debt because the institution can get away with it.
So maybe what's going to happen, Chuck, I hope this happens, because it needs to happen. If there are fewer people going to school, they're going to have less revenue, and then they're going to have to tighten their belts. And hopefully, maybe this might be just total insanity, but maybe they have to bring these prices, down somewhat, because it's been out of control.
Or the opposite happens, where
they make it more expensive because there's fewer people.
Exactly.
The California model.
Well, we
don't have to change anything. We just charge people more.
Because the institution has a set budget they have to achieve. They need so much in revenue to take care of their expenses. So we'll just, instead of raising 3 or 4%, we're going to go 5 or 6%.
But at some time, there's going to be a day of reckoning with this kind of thing.
I think the day of reckoning is going to be, and I know you've talked about it with me, and you've talked about it any number of times is, we talk about a three-legged stool, with the economy. I mean, there's just a lot of debt out there that needs to be satisfied and needs to get paid.
And there's a lot of debt that's not going to be paid by the people who hold the debt.
Exactly. So
what happens there, Chuck? Does the government do a bailout? I mean, there is something big that's, I believe, on the not-too-distant horizon, exactly the way that you just said it, because there's a certain percentage. I'm sometimes more able to call the numbers than at other times. A certain percentage right now are in default. And the government's very lax about what constitutes default. I don't even think they report you late to the credit bureaus until you're something like 120 days late.
Yeah.
It's very lax. So the numbers are even worse than they appear.
The fact of the matter is that, we talked about, what happened with the housing market for years and where we are now, and how hard it is to oftentimes obtain a mortgage because of all the regs that are out there. Credit score obviously is indicative and important in debt to income ratios and loan to value ratios. And I know you guys.
But Chuck, for these college loans, they don't care about.
No. But I'm saying, as hard as it is to obtain a mortgage.
Yeah, that's right. All that is true on that. But for a college loan,
it's totally different.
The parent or the student, all they have to do is have all their bills current. It could be current was 90. It could be an absolute mess. You'd be a 400 credit score. But if all your bills are paid and they're current, you're basically going to get an unlimited amount of funding.
It's something that we need to make certain we're all aware of, because this could really not have a great ending, Harry.
What do you think? Is it even conceivable that the government will bail out Parent Plus loans and student loans? I mean, we've had bailouts for the banks. We've had bailouts for all kinds of different things.
If I was a betting person, I would probably say no at this point in time, because it hasn't become. It's not front and center.
It's not considered a crisis yet.
Correct. And at that point in time, you think about it. The situation with the Great Recession and what happened and how we got there to where we are with potential, with this college debt. I think you're comparing apples to oranges, actually.
Chuck, we're in the final minute. I want to ask you the verbiage of your theme on fewer college students. Is that also that people are getting back to the future in terms of seeking work that does not require a college degree?
Well, we talked about this. It was just a couple weeks ago I don't want to misquote it, but I want to say that, Harry, it was less than 30% of the jobs that are out there require a college education. So I think that trend could very, very well continue.
Well, what happened, though, Chuck, when the job market was really tight?
Then it requires 4, 5, 6 years of education. Yeah. And what a lot of employers, and again, the white, what I want to call, Harry, the non-manufacturing jobs. Oftentimes the jobs, up in New York City, for instance, for them, a lot of times, in finance in particular, require significant amounts of educations. And that's something, so you have to understand what field, like if you want to be an accountant, obviously a lawyer, a physician. I mean, you can't walk in with a high school diploma. You need a lot more education. So depending upon the field of interest, it is going to dictate the amount of education, number of years, requirements are going to be out there, certainly.
Listener wrote into the program, they want to know what percentage are behind currently. The best number that I've seen, and these numbers lag a bit, to year ending 2015, so obviously it's even worse now. It's in the neighborhood of 19 to 20%.
Yeah, I was going to say it's about 25.
And that's up over 5% in just a few years.
Well, you think about it. When you have so much, you run your household, or you as a student, you have your budget. You have to sort of prioritize what is the most important to the least important, and
you pay what you have to.
You got to pay your rent, you got to pay your
shelter,
mortgage, exactly.
You pay the student loan when you can,
exactly.
And if you wind up being in default or whatever, you deal with what you got to deal with. Chuck, as always, thank you for all of your financial planning needs. Turn to the official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program for the past 27 years without interruption. Chuck Malamut, leader of his group, the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. Chuck, stellar program.
Harry, thanks for having me. See you next week.
We'll see you next week. So I won't say good luck because it'll be good luck next week.
You don't want to give it out too early. Thank you.
But you're going to get a lot of well wishes from me on your continued prowess. Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks, Harry.
See you soon. Coming up next in just 2 minutes, Cindy Firsch is here, owner, executive editor of Shore Local News Magazine. We're going to be speaking today about a really wonderful not-for-profit organization, fully registered 501c3, registered charity with New Jersey Charitable Registration Act, with the IRS. So you can, and we have, the Hurley in the Morning charity has stepped up. You can step up with confidence and help Cindy and their great organization, Heart of Surfing. We'll be talking about that next.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff is brought to you by Integrity Physical Therapy and Wellness and Dr. Stuart Honig of Go Feet Podiatry.
8 out of 10 people complain of back pain, but there are ways to strengthen our spine and prevent injury. Here with us now is Dr. Chris Radcliffe of the Rothman Institute. So what are some things we can do?
So a lot of people don't realize this, but actually the abdominal muscles and the core muscles are really important for preventing back injuries and for maintaining good spine health.
So you should strengthen your muscles in your back, but also in your abdominals.
Absolutely. So things like plank exercises and sit-ups and crunches and side twisting exercises are very important for maintaining overall abdominal muscle health.
And of course, we can't forget about stretching with yoga, just general stretching throughout
Absolutely.
the day.
Stretching and yoga are really helpful also.
All right, Dr. Chris Radcliffe, and I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff is brought to you by Integrity Physical Therapy. Put yourself in their hands and Go Feet Podiatry. Your feet will thank you.
Stuck in an expensive timeshare contract and feel like there's no way out? I'm Chuck McDowell, CEO of Wesley Financial Group. I've helped thousands of people get rid of their timeshares.
I didn't realize what I was getting into. The whole thing was just a scam. I finally found information on Chuck, and he agreed to meet us. It was just a wonderful experience because he knows that business inside out, and he actually wanted to solve our problem.
I fought the largest timeshare company in federal court, and yes, I won. Whether you owe $10,000 to $250,000 on your timeshare, we can help cancel your mortgage. When you're approved as a client, we'll get you out of your timeshare, eliminate your payments, and get them off of your back permanently. And we proudly hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau.
Call Wesley Financial Group now for your free consultation at 800-478-7733. That's 800-478-7733. 800-478-7733.
Hey, wake up with Harry Hurley and drive home with me, Sean Hannity, 3 to 6. It's all happening here on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
It is a very dramatic moment of the program because it is Cindy Firsch's first appearance ever on the Hurley in the Morning program. Cindy is owner and executive editor of Shore Local News Magazine, and her and Bob must be geniuses because they have me writing with them. We're going to be talking about a great not-for-profit organization, Heart of Surfing. Cindy joins us now. Cindy, welcome to the Hurley in the Morning program.
Hi, Harry. Thanks so much for having us on.
My pleasure. How's everything going?
It's great. I really wanted to thank you for your platinum sponsorship of the Heartbeat Ball and our organization, Heart of Surfing. It means a lot to us. We really appreciate it.
Well, it's our pleasure. We're happy to be able to do it. We know the good work, the great work that you're doing. And I actually heard of Heart of Surfing from both my son-in-law, John Baker, who I don't know if you realize is my son-in-law, and he's very big in surf art and things and been very charitable for many, many years, and my daughter, Kristen, who were thrilled. They saw your post on social media that the Hurley in the Morning charity had stepped up to be one of your sponsors, and Cindy, we're happy to do it.
Yeah, I just connected those dots, Harry, and John's an amazing artist, and I know he's supported the Dean Randazzo Foundation so much, and Dean Randazzo has supported us in multiple ways, and we just really have a great surf community that's wrapped its arms around Heart of Surfing, and we have a great community in general, and we're really fortunate.
You know, not only do I agree with everything you just said, Cindy, the surfing community is very, very supportive, collegial, and supportive of one another. And there are a lot of, whether it's surfing for a cause or these different things, or all the great work that you're doing. See you, Chuck, with the Heart of Surfing. And Cindy, if you would, tell our listeners about Heart of Surfing, about what your organization is.
Okay. Heart of Surfing is a nonprofit organization that provides free surfing for families with autism or other special needs every Saturday, June through September. So on a typical Saturday, we have 40, 50 families come out. We have a crew of the best volunteers in the world that come out week after week and work with. A lot of the same kids come week after week, but we also get vacationers, people that travel up to an hour to get to the beach to come to be able to have the opportunity to take their kids surfing. And it's really, autism is a disability, but there's so much ability within that, and it really brings these kids out and they shine, because with the right supports, like what they're capable of, it's just amazing.
Cindy, as you may or may not know, another organization that we support for many, many years, I think for at least a decade or more, is Faces for Autism, which initially started as the Autism Support Network, and they've become such a go-to organization. So I really love the idea that you have Ken and Isabel Mosca and their organization. They're doing great work, obviously, with autism. They actually now have a component that we have been supporting each year now with a 4-figure contribution, Mossy's Mission, because, as you know, the number one way that a child with autism passes away is by drowning, which is really, it's like so extraordinary if you don't know that stat. So swimming is so important. The surfing element, I think, is amazing, and I can imagine that it's not only therapeutic, but it's I'm sure calming and something that they really enjoy, whether it's someone 5 years old or 95 years old.
They do. They really do. We've seen it with our own son, who is autistic, and he's 23 years old now. So Bob took him out surfing from the time he was 4 or 5 years old, and he always enjoyed it and found it calming. And then we saw some of these organizations pop up on the West Coast that were taking kids with autism surfing, and they actually traveled, and they came to our area, to Ocean County, one day a summer, but it filled up in an instant. And it was only one day. So if you were on vacation, or if your child was sick, or if your child was just even having a bad day, you were out of luck. So, Bob and I started talking, and we talked with Isabel and Ken also in 2014, and we just saw an opportunity to start this in our area. And we thought, why not? We got a great community. And we started up, and it's been doing great, and it's grown. We've added in some other recreational activities. We take the kids skateboarding and scootering in the fall and the spring. We do sensory-friendly roller skating and ice skating. So it's kind of evolved into a year-round recreational program for families with autism.
We're down to about 2 minutes for today, but, you're always welcome to come back anytime you're having a fundraising event or any type of event with Heart of Surfing. But how can people get involved and make a contribution and support your organization?
The best way is to go to our website, heartofsurfing.org, or to follow us on Facebook, Heart of Surfing. There's links on both of those that will give you more information about the Heartbeat Ball, which is February 10th at Great Bay Country Club. And you can reach out to us directly through email at mail@heartofsurfing.com. .org, I'm sorry. So there's links on both the Facebook and the website where you can contact us and purchase tickets.
I love it, too. I've been on the website. I love it. I love the vibe. I love the way that you guys outline all the nice programs that you have. So there is a lot, I think, of very, very good things that are going on. And I'm happy to be a small part of it with you guys, with you and Bob and your entire team. And let's keep in touch, Cindy.
All right. Thanks so much, Harry.
Good to talk to you. Also, too, I've said it to you privately, but let me say it on the air. Thank you for the opportunity to write for Shore Local News Magazine.
Harry, we're honored to have you write for Sure Local. It's our privilege and honor, and we appreciate it every week.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Be well.
All right, you too. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
That's heartofsurfing.com. Bookmark it. It's a really nice website. Tells you all about how they started in 2014, and it's a great program for entire families with autism. They've expanded. They're doing pre- and postseason skateboarding and other really neat things, even beyond surfing. Wide open forum, Hurley in the Morning style, begins right now. Fourth quarter.
104.1 FM and 1450 AM WPGG Atlantic City. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
Get back to work. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Hundreds of thousands of federal employees returning to their jobs the morning after the shutdown ended. The government now funded through February 8th.
But Republicans' wasteful incompetence continues.
Democratic House Leader Nancy Pelosi says the focus now shifts almost entirely to immigration. Fox's John Decker live at the White House.
Democrats are pushing to pass a bill to protect hundreds of thousands of young, undocumented immigrants from deportation.